Welcome back to the game on the Tide 100.9, powered by good friends at Tuscaloosa Toyota. Corey Miller, the pastor of Payne, alongside Christian Miller. We host the Miller's Edge, 11 to 12 Central Time. They're in Tuscaloosa, filling in for Ryan Fowler. Much needed vacation for him. Let's go out to the guest phone lines. A guy that I follow on Twitter, probably argue with numerous times. He may not even know who I am, but I like to get into it on Twitter because I like hot takes. And he's one that had many and a lot of good hot takes. Barrett Sallee of CBS Sports joins us now. Barrett, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to be on with Crimson Tide royalty like you guys. I really appreciate it.
No, man, it's great. When Ryan told me that you were going to be on, I was like, great. I like to argue with him on Twitter. I think you and maybe Danny Cannell are my favorite guys to argue with because y'all have like these hard takes.
I don't have the fashion senses. I don't have the same fashion sense as Danny. I can't pull off the turtleneck.
He loves the turtle. See, and Barrett, I played with Danny, right, with the Giants, and we drafted him out of Florida State. I think he's a fourth-round draft pick. But so he and I go way back, and I'm like, some of the things he says, I'm like, you really can't believe what you're saying, Danny. But he is who he is, man, and he's a fun person to follow, as you are as well. I get a lot from what you guys are posting on Twitter and a lot of good stuff. Let's go with some football because that's where our meat and potatoes are here with Christian and I. And I've been asking everybody this, and LSU, because I'm having a hard time to see if I really do believe this or not, that LSU can be better than Alabama this year, even though I know they won in a close game at home at night, Tiger Stadium. I get how hard that is. 2-point conversion. But is it real? Is Brian Kelly having this type of impact on a program this early in his tenure there?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I said when he got the job, I think there was this, I wouldn't say negative view of Brian Kelly in the South, but maybe just, it might just be residual over the I wouldn't say frustration, just the viewpoint that people have of Notre Dame, and Brian Kelly kind of got swept up in that. But the guy was a 10-win coach at Notre Dame pretty much every single season, other than the 2016 disaster and, 9-win seasons here and there. But he was really good at Notre Dame. And when you get to LSU, you have a much better talent pool to choose from, right? Like, Notre Dame's got some good players.
Yep.
It doesn't have as good of players as LSU or Alabama or, Auburn or, Georgia, whatever. So you put him in Baton Rouge where there's no in-state competition on the recruiting trail. Granted, Saban and everybody else are dipping into New Orleans because why wouldn't you? But, that's a really good combination. So is LSU that talented? No, but they're talented enough and well-coached enough to be able to do what they did last year. And this year, I think part of the buzz, I think the biggest buzz is that the biggest reason for the buzz is that they've got experience, and that experience already led them to a West title last year. So why would that not be possible this year? And to me, that just sort of screams consistency, and consistency at a relatively high level.
Barrett, you cover all programs, so you get to see a lot of teams, and you really understand these teams and see them before the season and have a good idea on how you think they're going to play out. But I want to ask you, Texas travels to Tuscaloosa in this upcoming season after Alabama traveled to Texas and narrowly escaped that one with a victory. How do you see it playing out this year around in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, I mean, I did our, just a game-by-game schedule prediction for every team in the SEC, which, I mean, some of those games are inexplicable. Sometimes, upsets happen, so I try to pick some of those out. I picked Texas to beat Alabama. I think it'd be close one way or the other. I would have been fascinated last year, Christian, to see what Quinn Ewers would have done, or more specifically, what Alabama would have tried to do after halftime to Quinn Ewers had he not gotten hurt. Because that, I think, would have been the true test of both of those teams. Because, Texas still had a pretty reasonable, a reasonably a good schedule, good result, despite having quarterback injury issues starting in the fifth quarter of the season. And so I think Texas, we always talk about Texas is back and all that stuff. Texas can still be really good without being air quotes back. And I think this year it sets up really well. The offense, I know Bijan left, but they've got a lot of great offensive skill players, particularly at wide receiver. A quarterback who not only is healthy, but has clearly earned the confidence of Sark. And so going into Alabama in week 2, okay, let's just say that, it becomes a shootout. I trust Texas much more, given that it's week 2, than Alabama. Maybe in week 5, 6, 7, 8, it might be different, but in week 2, I just would trust Texas more. So I think it's just going to be a matter of styles. Like, styles make fights, and if it gets down and dirty, then Alabama probably will be the team. But Texas has a ton of firepower, and I don't think anybody should overlook that team as being, and not necessarily a national championship caliber team, but a team that's capable of being in the top 10, because they are. And if that's the case, going on the road anywhere is not necessarily easy, but certainly games that they could win.
Barrett, when you're looking at the time, reading your article and your prediction of wins, you got Alabama at 10.5, and probably just like anybody, right? With Alabama having so many great quarterbacks the last few years that are starting in the National Football League right now, and then you go into a season, we don't know who's going to separate themselves, whether it be, Milroe or Ty Simpson or Buckner, who's a transfer from Notre Dame and who's played more than any of those two guys. I mean, has more experience. But from the pundits that looks at Alabama, I think that's just going to be the biggest question, because you just don't know what you're going to get, right? And Tommy Rees may bring the big tight end room and the running game, but is that going to be enough? Is that your consensus when you look at this team because of the trigger man, don't have one yet, and just not knowing what they're going to do offensively?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Tyler Buckner, I think he has a ton of potential, and we've seen it, right? Like that game against South Carolina in that bowl game, his upside's huge. The problem is his floor is also very low. I mean, I like to call it like the Bo Nix experience on steroids in that game. And really, that was the only big game he played because he got hurt. The Ohio State game last year, they definitely kept the reins on him because it was Marcus Freeman's first game as well, and then he got hurt against Marshall. He's the most experienced, but even that's limited, and the ups and downs were just wild. I think at Alabama that, generally speaking, Nick Saban can sort of get that wide variety and shrink it down a little bit to make sure the floor isn't as low. But we don't know what he is at this point. We don't know if Tyler can be the guy that limits those mistakes, because he's made them. And so I think right now he is the guy. There's a reason they went out and targeted him, and certainly his experience with Tommy Rees is valuable. But I kind of look at it this way and say, okay, yeah, Tommy Rees knows Tyler Buckner. Tommy Rees gave Tyler Buckner the starting job last year. He's comfortable with him. But Tommy Rees also went out and got Sam Hartman to replace Tyler Buckner while he was still the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, what is the internal opinion of him, of Buckner, and why did they feel the need to target him? Is it because the upside is there, or is it because there are no options? And comfort between Rees and Buckner just was there, so they went out and did it just to get an able body. I don't really know, and I don't think there's any way to know, honestly, at this point. So, because of that, I think that's why there's some I wouldn't say concern, but I mean, how many times has Alabama had a 10.5 win total in Las Vegas under Nick Saban? I don't have the stats. I bet you it hadn't happened since maybe 13, 14.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been
time. So I would say that is the biggest and perhaps even the only reason there's a ton of cynicism towards Alabama this year.
And that's 2 home losses. I mean, think about that. When was the last time Alabama lost 2 games at home at Bryant-Denny? That would be losing to Texas at home and LSU at home. Wow.
The last time it happened was what, 2013?
Well, I was about to say we lost to Ole Miss at home in 2015. And I think next time I was about to say next time my loss was on the road at Auburn in 2017.
17.
I believe. Yeah. So, there's not been many losses for Alabama, let alone in Tuscaloosa. So people would be pretty upset if they threw 2 games at home in Tuscaloosa.
You think?
I think Alabama fans would be upset with. I think Alabama fans are upset if it's just not national title.
Pretty much. No, you know what's very well with that comment, Barrett, because I'll tell you, it is pretty much national championship or nothing, and that's year in and year out. I mean, there's been years we won an SEC title, then we fell short of the national championship, and it's as if like the SEC title never existed, and that season we just scrap it. But I mean that's a testament to the job that Nick Saban has done with this program. Is that's truly the standard, is to win a national championship every single year. I want to get your thoughts real quick on the scheduling for 2024. You know, the SEC made news with an 8-game schedule instead of opting for the 9-game slate, and they're going away with the divisions. You know, it's divisionless. What are your thoughts on that? Do you like that scheduling better than what we've had in previous years? And if so, why?
I've been anti-division for so long. Like, why does geography matter, right? Like, if Alabama and LSU are the 2 best teams in the SEC, which, I mean, that happened a lot over the course from like 2007 through whenever Les Miles got fired. Let them play in Atlanta, right? Like, why does geography matter? So I'm all about divisionless football. I don't like it in any sport, especially when it comes to geography. Like, I don't care about geography. Why does it matter? So I was disappointed that they stayed with 8 because it should be 9. There's plenty of room to make it 9. I think there are a lot of different factors, specifically the financial status of Disney/ESPN, that makes it hard to sort of settle on a long-term, format, long-term matrix. So I get why they kicked the can down the road for a year. It's not my ideal situation, because I would have rather gone with 9 conference games from here on out. But the way they incorporated Oklahoma and Texas, every team plays either one of those teams. I like it. It's a stopgap measure. And if you're going to have a stopgap measure and do it that way, I'm fine with. And I kind of liken it to 2020, the COVID year. 10 SEC games. Let's make it as fun as possible, even though this is not the long-term solution. So it's fine. But I would say 9 games and divisionless is the way to go in the future. And look, I know there's been some reports, 2-3 weeks ago, that Saban was balking at 9 and going back with 8. I was like, look, that's posturing. Nick Saban's been 4 9-game conference schedules since he was born. So why would that change? But I was disappointed that nothing concrete got done, but, okay with the temporary steps that were made.
Barrett, one more quick question. I know here the music for Kim got a break here, but real quickly, Shane Beamer. I'm in Columbia and live here, and Shane Beamer, South Carolina. I'm an alumni. So your thoughts on, I know you put 6 for win total. Your thoughts on Beamer and the Gamecocks?
I like Beamer. I think he's done a good job making that program his. It's kind of built in his, in his image, and I think that's always good. I mean, you guys know, coaches, if they fake your identity of that program, kids understand that. Kids don't like that, So I think Shane's done a good job of that. I think from a transfer portal perspective, he's done a good job. Got a great quarterback this year, who I think, if he limits his mistakes, can be a Heisman contender. And it's in the East. It's the East where it's Georgia and everybody else. So why can't South Carolina be the top of that everybody else group?
Yeah, it's going to be hard, though. Georgia, man. Kirby Smart, man. They're beasts sitting right there in the East. And we'll see. They have one down in Athens between the hedges. I know I did a couple of times when I was playing, so it can happen. Barrett, man, we appreciate all the knowledge, all the wisdom, and giving us some time today.
Thank you guys very much. And tell Ryan I say you guys should be the permanent host.
hey, we
4 hours, man. That's a lot.
That is long. We have our hour 11 to 12, so feel free to come on the Miller's Edge anytime, Barrett.
Absolutely.
Anytime. You guys just hit me up.
All right, brother. Appreciate you. That's Barrett Sallee. CBS Sports does a fine job.